Hey there, I'm Callie. And yeah, you read that right. My sister's birthday bash was booked at my venue without so much as a heads up. She walked in with her fiancé's family like they owned the place, glanced around, then looked me dead in the eye and told my staff to escort that homeless woman out. That homeless woman was me. But honestly, that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part? My entire family was in on it. They'd planned it behind my back and fully expected me to pay for it. Quietly. The second I stepped onto the wraparound porch of my parents' house in Savannah Bay, that familiar pressure hit my chest, like my lungs knew to brace before my heart did. It was early June, the air thick with humidity, jasmine, and a hint of crawfish from someone's backyard boil. I hadn't come home in nearly 5 months, not because I was busy, but because I knew exactly how it would play out. Mom greeted me with that smile, the kind that looks warm until you get close enough to see it doesn't reach her eyes. "Callie, darling." "Still wearing all black, huh?" she trilled, air kissing the side of my face. "You know, a little color wouldn't kill you." I forced a half-hearted chuckle. "Hi, Mom." Dad was already seated at the dinner table, halfway through his lasagna, eyes locked on the plate like he might find salvation in the marinara. And then there was Jalissa, lounging across the love seat like she was auditioning for a reality show. She had on some designer gown I was sure she hadn't paid for, with that smirk I'd grown up dodging. "Well, well," she said, standing dramatically. Savannah Bay's favorite recluse finally reemerges. "Did you finish alphabetizing your spreadsheets or whatever it is you do?" I didn't take the bait. Just nodded and took the seat across from her. The table was set with Mom's good china, the kind that only came out for holidays, emotional interventions, or announcements that felt like threats. That should have been my first clue. Dinner was stiff. Mom complimented the weather. Dad muttered something about highway traffic. Jalissa snapped a mid-bite selfie, expertly angling her phone to crop out my face. I should have walked out right then. Instead, I bit into a piece of garlic bread and lied to myself. This is just dinner. Jalissa stood up, wineglass in hand, glowing like she was on camera. "I have something fabulous to share," she beamed. "My 33rd is coming up and it's going to be iconic. Think, Kardashian meets Southern Royal Ball." I kept chewing. I found the perfect rooftop in the Artisan District. Champagne wall, live band, drone footage, horse-drawn carriage. Basically Paris, but with better lighting. She paused, soaking up her own spotlight. Total cost? Just under $150,000. I nearly choked. I set my glass down. She didn't flinch. "And you," she said, pointing straight at me, "get to make it happen. I mean, come on, Callie. It's not like you're doing anything serious with your money." The room went still. Even the ceiling fan sounded like it had stopped spinning. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd shut it down. Instead, she tilted her head. "Sweetheart, it really would mean a lot to your sister. You've been so fortunate lately. Maybe it's time to give a little back." Dad didn't even look up, just kept chewing. That's when it hit me. I wasn't family, I was funding. I tried to swallow the fury rising in my throat, but it tasted like old betrayal. I excused myself before I said something I couldn't take back. Back at my place, I sat at the kitchen island with a glass of Merlot, trying to wash the evening off my memory. My phone buzzed. It was Tasha, my operations manager, my sounding board, and basically the only person in my life with functional emotional radar. "Check Jalissa's social peak story," she wrote. I opened the app. Jalissa had posted a split-screen reel. On one side, her clinking champagne flutes with her event planner. On the other, a grainy video of my car pulling into my driveway. Windows down. paint faded. Caption: when your rich sister lives like she's in witness protection. The comments were rolling in. At least she's not pretending to be someone she's not. That house screams therapy. Foul! She drives that? I stared at the screen. My jaw clenched so hard, I thought my molars might crack. I wanted to scream. I wanted to reply to every one of them, to tell them what I'd built, what I owned, and how I paid for every brick of it with my own 2 hands. But I didn't. I just stared. She thinks this is about a birthday party. She has no idea what she just started. I didn't pick up a single call. I didn't reply to any messages. My phone lit up for hours, and I let it. Tasha offered to chuck my phone into the harbor behind the office, and honestly, I considered it. Instead, I silenced everything, notifications off, volume down, and lost myself in zoning permits and financial spreadsheets. My hands kept moving, but my chest stayed tight. The video was still up, still gathering reactions, still being reshared by people who didn't even know me. Strangers laughing at the car I drove, mocking me for not flaunting my money like it was some costume I forgot to wear. She's not going to stop, Tasha said, drumming her nails on the conference table. I know, I replied, eyes locked on the screen. But she's not the one I'm worried about. Tasha raised an eyebrow. I didn't elaborate. I'd seen this unraveling in slow motion for years, like tiny leaks behind a wall. But now, the wall had cracked. And behind it, the rot was spreading. That afternoon, I was reviewing vendor contracts when I spotted a silhouette through the frosted glass of my office door. My stomach sank. My mother didn't book appointments. She floated in like she had a key to the building. Arms full, she stepped inside. Thought I'd drop by, she said cheerfully, placing a Tupperware of banana bread on my desk. She glanced around. Still no receptionist? You really should make this place more inviting, Callie. I gave her a practiced smile. Hey, Mom. She sat without being asked, adjusting her blazer like she was about to pitch me something. You work too much. Always have, just like your father. Although he was never great with money, you get that from me. I said nothing. Through the glass, I could see Tasha watching me closely, but I didn't call her in. Then Mom reached into her bag and pulled out a thick cream-colored envelope. I brought something for you to look at, she said lightly, like it was a recipe or a thank you card. I opened it slowly, not expecting much. Maybe a note, a list, or some token apology. Instead, it was a budget, a full cost breakdown for Jalissa's birthday event. Midway down, underlined in pink highlighter, venue contribution, Callie Ford, $150,000, confirmed. My throat went dry. Confirmed? I said sharply before I could stop myself. Who confirmed this? Mom's smile didn't waver. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be, sweetheart. You know Jalissa doesn't have that kind of money. Your father and I, well, we're retired. On a fixed income now. She's your sister. I set the envelope down like it might catch fire. She humiliated me, I said, online. She was teasing. She mocked my life. She's going through a phase. I stared at her, trying to understand the logic. You're really asking me to pay for the woman who used me as a joke for her followers? I'm not asking, she replied calmly. I'm showing you the plan. You've always been the responsible one, Callie. This is just what's expected. There it was again. That word. Not requested. Not discussed. Expected. Like I was some invisible pillar holding up the house they refused to admit was crumbling. I picked up the Tupperware and handed it back to her. Thanks for the bread, I said flatly. She looked hurt, like I'd slapped her. Don't be like this, Callie. You're making it dramatic. No, I replied calmly. I think you've misunderstood the word dramatic. She stood, smoothing her blouse like she'd just closed a deal. Let me know if you want the planner's contact. You'll love her. Very boutique. And then she left. Just like that. Leaving behind the ghost of her perfume and that cursed envelope. I didn't rip it up. I didn't scream. I walked over to the window and stared down at the street, my jaw locked into place like stone. They didn't ask. They assumed. They expected me to pay for their silence. I stayed at the window longer than I realized. Frozen. Watching nothing. The sun had dipped below the buildings before I even noticed it was setting. Eventually, I turned off the lights, wandered through the stillness of my house, and ended up in the kitchen. The banana bread sat on the counter, wrapped neatly in cellophane like some sort of peace offering. I stared at it for a long time, like it might speak. She used to bake that exact recipe when I was sick as a kid. Back then, I thought it meant love. Now, it felt like a warning label dressed in sugar. I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, tried to focus on anything that wasn't them. Lease renewals, payroll, maintenance schedules. But my hands didn't move. My eyes just stared at the glowing screen until the words blurred. That's when the memory crashed into me. I was 10. A hospital bed with sheets too thin and machines blinking quietly in the dark. The beeping was steady, hypnotic, like a lullaby you didn't want. I'd caught some virus, nothing rare, but enough to keep me there over a week. And Mom didn't leave my side. She stayed curled up in a stiff recliner, still wearing her coat, her breathing shallow. "You're the reason I'm strong," she whispered once, stroking my hair. "You saved me from myself, Callie." I remember blinking up at her, scared and too small to understand anything except her closeness. But the next night, I heard her on the phone with Dad, furious. "You didn't bring the right insurance forms," she hissed. "We gave up everything for her. I quit my job, Walter. You're working night shifts like a damn mule. I don't care what it takes. We are not leaving her in one of those awful state-run places." Then she hung up, turned to me and smiled like nothing had happened. "We've sacrificed so much for you, sweetheart," she cooed, brushing my forehead. "Just promise you'll never forget that, okay?" I was 10, so I nodded. Back then, I thought it was love, a parent's devotion. I had no idea it was the opening line of a long, quiet contract. I snapped back to the present, my adult self sitting in a still kitchen with frozen dinners stacked in the freezer and no one asking how I felt, just what I could give. They never ask. They expect. And when you say no, they remind you what they've done. Guilt was the invoice they mailed every time I refused to comply. My brain spiraled into all the moments I'd ignored. College tuition? I never questioned why my classes were at night so Julissa could explore her creative path full-time. Family dinners? My gifts were always met with, "Wow, not bad for someone without a husband." Every sacrifice I made was meant to be followed by a thank you. Except mine never came. I opened a draft email to my mother. Something soft, diplomatic. "I appreciate you stopping by. I just wish these things were discussed more openly." I stared at the screen for a second, then deleted it in one swipe. I stood up, walked to the freezer, slid the banana bread right between a bag of frozen peas and an old bottle of vodka, closed the door. "I'm not your debt to collect," I whispered. "I'm not your redemption story." I didn't cry. I didn't smile. But for the first time in a long time, I felt the ground beneath me, solid. I used to believe that being needed was the same as being loved. Now, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, I was back at my desk before the sunrise had reached the windows. Downtown Savannah Bay was still asleep. The cafe across the street hadn't even flipped their lights on yet. I hadn't really slept, but I didn't feel tired. I felt sharp, like my body had finally decided to stop wasting energy on emotions and instead just move. My inbox was full. Client inquiries, vendor confirmations, a request for a fall wedding with a 200-guest head count, but nothing held my focus. Then Tasha walked in, holding a manila envelope like it was ticking. "Courier dropped this off 10 minutes ago," she said. "From Julissa's fiancé's assistant. Labeled urgent, but guess whose name it's addressed to?" She set it on my desk. It was addressed to me in elegant serif font, right beneath the raised letter header, Monarch Event Group. I opened it slowly. Inside was a thick contract packet, high-gloss paper, gold-trimmed dividers. The whole thing screamed Julissa. It looked like a standard event reservation for a venue I'd never even heard of, the Empress Loft, one of those overpriced rooftop locations downtown. Then I saw it, under the family contact section, financial liaison, Callie Ford signature, required. Blinked. It didn't make sense until I hit page 6, buried in fine print under liability adjustments. In the event the primary booking party fails to remit payment in full within 30 business days, the listed family contact assumes full financial responsibility for any unpaid balances, legal fees, and associated penalties. I stared, read it again, then laughed. Short, dry. "She really thought I wouldn't read this," I said. Tasha crossed her arms. "She thought guilt would sign it for you." My fingers curled around the contract, firm, not enough to crease it, but enough to feel its weight. I didn't say anything right away. I didn't need to. I slid the entire contract packet into my bottom drawer and labeled it in my mind. Evidence. "You know," I said, tapping the desk lightly, "if Julissa put this much effort into managing her own finances, she wouldn't need a backup wallet with my face on it." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "Want me to shred it?" "Nope." "Let her wonder." I turned to my laptop, pulled up a new email, and typed without a greeting. No fluff, no fake warmth. Subject: RE. Contract request body. We do not process documents submitted through emotional channels. All future communications must be routed through our legal department. Unsolicited contracts will not be acknowledged. C. Ford. I hit send. Then I opened my calendar, scrolled to next week, and created a recurring weekly reminder. Monitor financial setups, family. I stared at the title for a beat, then whispered to myself, that's the last time they catch me off guard. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. It wasn't betrayal. It was business. And in business, I don't scream. I build. I build walls tall enough that they echo. Saturday mornings at the Haven House used to be peaceful, calm. I'd stroll through the marble foyer with a clipboard in hand, checking linens and lighting, confirming florals like a conductor fine-tuning a symphony before the curtain rose. But this Saturday was different. As I moved across the floor, something felt off. The air had a static hum to it, unspoken chaos waiting to surface. Tasha trailed behind me, double-checking system updates on her tablet. She paused by the mirrored hallway and frowned. Did you approve white gardenias for next weekend's VIP event? No, I said, not even breaking stride. I haven't touched next week's calendar. Her brow furrowed. Well, someone did. There's a request logged, along with imported ice sculptures, candles from Provence, and a sound permit for live music. I stopped, walked over, scanned the booking entry, client initials JF3. My stomach dropped. She wouldn't, I muttered. She might, Tasha said gently. We headed straight to the event records in the back office. I logged into the back-end system, bypassed our third-party booking software. And there it was. The Haven Grand Lux package booked via external agency, scheduled for Jalissa's birthday weekend. No call, no email, no notice. She booked my venue like it was a hotel room, like I was just another vendor. "She's trying to force your hand," Tasha said quietly. "If everything's already moving, you'll look petty pulling the plug." It was desperate, but smart. I didn't say a word, just opened the security camera feed from the previous night. There she was, Julissa, wearing stilettos too high for cobblestone, twirling around the ballroom like it was her personal stage. She was laughing, gesturing wildly, talking animatedly to a planner I didn't recognize. Her hands flailed like she was directing a music video, pointing to the terrace, spinning in a circle to show off the vibe. "She's acting like she already owns the place," Tasha muttered. I leaned back in my chair, arms folded, eyes still locked on the screen. "She thinks I won't confront her in public." Tasha didn't respond. She knew better than to break that kind of silence. Julissa thought this was a game of optics, a performance of elegance and passive aggression. But this was my stage, and on my stage, the rules were different. "Don't cancel anything," I said finally. "Not yet." Tasha looked at me sideways. "You're letting her go through with it? I'm letting her bury herself." I opened a blank folder on my desktop, labeled it JF, Unauthorized Booking. Inside, a subfolder, Communications. "Document everything," I said, voice low. "She wants this party to be her crowning moment. Let's make sure she earns every second of it." Tasha smirked. "You want a paper trail? I want a mountain." We stepped back into the foyer. Staff moved around us, setting up for a bridal brunch, oblivious to the quiet war unfolding behind the scenes. This wasn't about contracts anymore, not about a birthday. It was about who owns the name on the gate. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working from my home office. The windows were cracked just enough to let in the sweet, heavy scent of gardenias blooming in the yard. For the first time in weeks, I'd found a rhythm again, skimming contracts, revising layouts, sipping lukewarm coffee that didn't bother me. Then my phone buzzed. It was Tasha. "You might want to check Ballroom Cam 3. It's happening." I didn't ask what she meant. I just clicked. The feed from the Haven House's grand ballroom flickered onto my screen. Crystal chandeliers glowing, gold-trimmed sconces casting warm light. Everything looked calm, elegant. Until she appeared. Julissa. Storming across the marble in 5-inch stilettos, already mid-rant. "This is the color scheme? Are you kidding? It looks like a middle school prom." She flung her arms at the decorator, who stood frozen beside a half-finished centerpiece. The florist beside them winced as Julissa tore a rose from the arrangement and tossed it to the floor. "You call this luxury? This is sad. My followers are going to roast me for this mess." A young staffer passed by, arms full of linens. Julissa snapped her fingers. "Hey, linen girl! That's not the fabric I ordered. God, is anyone here even literate?" The girl paused, young, nervous. English clearly wasn't her first language. She gave a small, polite smile and kept walking. Julissa rolled her eyes. "Unbelievable. You let amateurs run this place?" Then she grabbed a clipboard from the table, scanned it quickly, and slammed it down. Hard. It flew off the edge and clattered loudly across the floor. I didn't flinch, didn't blink, just watched. That's when Tasha stepped into frame, calm, spine straight, voice clear. "This is a private venue under contract," she said, her tone slicing through the chaos. Our team deserves to be treated with professional respect. Julissa turned slowly, eyes narrowing, scanning Tasha like she was something on the bottom of her shoe. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "Spare me the lecture. Do you even know who I am?" Tasha didn't hesitate. "Do you?" For a second, the whole room went still. Julissa huffed, turned away, muttering something about ungrateful staff and calling her lawyer. But I wasn't listening anymore. I'd heard everything I needed. I leaned back in my chair and watched the final seconds of the footage as Julissa stormed out of frame. Then I clicked rewind, played it again and again. Her voice, her face, her entitlement, all of it, recorded. I minimized the feed and opened a folder already waiting on my desktop. Incident response. Inside, one file. Client policy. Section 3.2, grounds for termination and ban. It was all there, clear as day. Hostile behavior toward staff, defamation of venue, willful property disruption, every box checked. I dragged the video into the folder. She thought this was just a performance, an image, a private game of pretend. But she handed me everything I needed, on camera. She gave it all away and didn't even know it. 2 days later, the ballroom looked like a magazine cover. Orchids curled around the staircase railing, ivory linens draped over golden chairs. Chandeliers sparkled like they knew what was coming. Julissa walked in like she was walking onto a movie set, all hips and whispery laughter. Beckham trailed behind her, quiet, attentive, but distant. His parents, Elena and Harrison Faulkner, entered next. Their movements slow and intentional. You could tell instantly they were the kind of people who measured the power of a room by how the air shifted when they spoke. Julissa gestured toward the grand staircase. "Isn't this perfect? It screams legacy." From my office upstairs, I watched the feed play out. Tasha stood by the entrance, welcoming them with grace and precision. She glanced toward the security camera and gave the smallest nod. Time. I stood, adjusted the cuffs of my navy blazer, straightened my spine, and began the descent. Down below, Julissa launched into one of her monologues. "The chandeliers, imported from Austria. Custom design. The owner works with very exclusive clients." Elena tilted her head. "And who is the owner, dear?" Julissa smiled. "Too wide. We have connections." Harrison folded his hands. "So, you don't know?" Before she could spin another excuse, Tasha stepped forward. She tapped her tablet. The ambient music cut out. Silence blanketed the room, and I began to descend the staircase. My heels clicked against the marble, sharp even. Every eye turned. I paused halfway down, met Julissa's stare, then continued. "Welcome to the Haven House," I said, stepping onto the floor. I extended a hand to Elena. "I'm Callie Ford, owner and creative director of this estate." Harrison blinked. Elena raised a brow, but behind it, I saw something shift in her eyes. Interest, not offense. Julissa, though. She looked like someone had yanked the floor out from under her. "You own this place?" she choked out. "But you live in that tiny house." I turned toward her, calm and measured. "A smart businesswoman doesn't wear her assets on her sleeve," I replied. "She builds them, brick by brick, and lets them speak for themselves." Elena's smile grew slowly, like she'd just discovered a rare gem. "How refreshing," she said. I was starting to think no one under 60 believed in discretion anymore. Harrison nodded beside her. "Impressive, Miss Ford." "Very impressive." Beckham looked at me then. Really looked. Not with pity, not confusion, with recognition. Julissa stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, trying to find words. None came. I didn't gloat. I didn't lean in. I simply turned to Tasha. "Please escort the Faulkners to the East Terrace," I said softly. "I'll join them shortly." Tasha nodded, her movement fluid, graceful. As the others moved toward the corridor, Julissa lingered behind, her breath shallow, fists clenched. I didn't even glance her way as I passed. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their applause. I had the floor. We strolled through the terrace slowly, unhurried and composed. The Faulkners admired the garden with that kind of restrained elegance reserved for old money. Their approval came not in words, but in the way they nodded, thoughtfully, silently. Near the fountain, Elena paused beside me. "You built all of this?" she asked. "From the ground up," I said simply. She took a breath and gave me a look only seasoned women know how to give. A look that was both assessment and approval. "You're exactly the kind of woman our family respects," she said. "Quiet strength. Real results." From behind us, Julissa's voice cracked through the moment. "Elena, wait, can we talk?" Her voice was small, smaller than I'd ever heard it. For the first time in years, she sounded like the younger sister she actually was, but Elena didn't turn around. A moment later, Harrison walked up, placing a steady hand on Beckham's shoulder. "You may want to reconsider your priorities," he said to him, plainly, firmly. Beckham looked at Julissa, then at me. He didn't say a word, but his silence was enough. It didn't protect her. It revealed her. Julissa broke down in the hallway. She leaned back against the mirrored wall, makeup smudged, voice cracking in a half sob. She slid to the floor slowly, like gravity had finally caught up to her. I didn't stop. I didn't gloat. I walked past her, heels sharp, pulse steady, face unreadable. That night I returned to my home. I turned off every light, except the one in the kitchen. The silence felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was earned. I sipped tea, letting the warmth spread through me when my phone buzzed. A single text. From my father. "Can we talk?" I paused, then tapped call. He answered immediately. "Hey, princess." I didn't say anything. He cleared his throat. "I just think, maybe don't push things further, okay? It's still her birthday week." That was it. That was the thing he needed to say. Not "I'm proud of you," not "you handled that with grace." Just, don't make waves. It's still her week. I laughed softly into the phone. "I stood there," I said. "I stood right in front of you all. And you still didn't see me." He sighed. "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," I replied. "It always has been." "Look, we just want the family to stay intact," I cut in. "It's never been intact. It's been built around Julissa, like a house of cards." He didn't argue. "I'm not mad," I said, suddenly calm. "I'm just done." A pause. "You don't mean that." "I do." I hung up, then slid the phone into the drawer by the sink and closed it gently. Outside, the lights of Savannah Bay blinked quietly against the dark sky. Somewhere nearby, music drifted from a jazz bar, soft, aching, like a memory wrapped in brass and smoke. I didn't wait for someone to show up. Didn't hope for a knock or a message. I just breathed. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped asking them to show up. 2 weeks passed. No apology. No headlines. No drama. Just quiet. The kind that doesn't echo. The kind that settles. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sorting contracts, sipping coffee that had gone lukewarm, when I saw the subject line in my inbox. "I'm sorry," from Walter Ford. "My father?" I clicked before I could talk myself out of it. "You were right. I should have said something. I'm sorry." Dad. That was it. No but. No passive-aggressive excuses. No, you know how your sister is. Just a single sentence. Late, but clean. I read it 5 times, then deleted it. But I smiled when I did. The Haven house hadn't slowed down. If anything, it was thriving. We had 3 weddings scheduled for next month, 2 corporate galas, and a high-profile nonprofit fundraiser that had local reporters circling. Tasha was fielding inquiries from planners across 4 states. She walked into my office, tablet in hand, same as always. "We've got a request from Elena Faulkner's niece," she said, tapping. "She asked for you directly." "Of course she did," I said. "We'll take good care of her." And I meant it. That same day, my phone buzzed with a push notification from a wedding industry blog. Influencer event canceled. The Haven House denies involvement. Speculation mounts. Are luxury events just for show? Inside the collapse of a brand. They didn't name her directly. They didn't have to. Later that evening, out of nothing but curiosity, I checked Julissa's socials. The latest video was still there, but it was different. No makeup, no filters, no background music. Comments turned off. She just stared into the camera for nearly 2 minutes before even speaking. I didn't watch the whole thing, not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. There was no rage in my chest, no satisfaction, no fire, just air. I closed the app, placed my phone face down, and stepped outside with a glass of wine. The porch was warm, lit by the soft orange of the setting sun. The street was quiet except for the wind rustling through the oaks. That morning, I'd driven past my parents' house. I slowed down, just for a second. But I didn't stop, not out of bitterness, because I didn't feel the pull anymore. I used to think peace came when people finally said sorry, when the balance shifted, when the villains got exposed and the family finally admitted they were wrong. But peace is quieter than that. Peace is walking away when no one asks you to. Peace is deleting the message without replying. Peace is saying no and not explaining why. I took a sip of wine. The night settled around me like a soft exhale, and maybe that is the real revenge. Not winning, but walking away clean. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, peace doesn't come when people finally treat you right. It comes when you start treating yourself like you matter. For years, I thought loyalty meant silence. That being a good daughter, a good sister, meant shrinking myself so others could shine. But shrinking never saved anyone. You can love your family and still draw a line. You can walk away without hating them. You can stop chasing validation from people who never looked at you clearly. I didn't win by being louder. I won by finally listening to myself. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own story? Have you ever carried guilt that was never yours to begin with? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And hey, if this story spoke to you, type 1 or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't, that's okay too. Let me know why. Maybe it was the message, the pacing, the ending. This channel is for real people, with real stories. So if you want more honest, emotional storytelling like this, don't forget to subscribe. You never know. The next story might be the one that finally puts your feelings into words. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.